There's a wonderful comedy film from the 1980s called Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. And in this video, we will be discussing various modes of transportation for your pet gerbil. Do gerbils enjoy travel? Can gerbils travel safely in a vehicle? What about a plane? Are gerbils even allowed on planes? Can gerbils travel abroad? What are the necessities required for travel? In this material, we will address all of these important questions. We hope you enjoy this content and find it both interesting and informative. As with most pets of any type, travel can bring out the nerves. The fast motion and general uncertainty can cause a host of problems. The inability to be still and keep quiet are two of the most obvious difficulties. However, you're in luck when it comes to gerbils, at least to some degree. Research has shown that gerbils don't seem to mind traditional vehicle travel. Perhaps they're simply too small and unaware to understand that something major is taking place. A gerbil in its cage is a gerbil in its cage. This sense of security can allow your gerbil to, more or less, remain in its own unique world, even though everything else outside is changing, or in this case, moving. If you're concerned about your gerbil getting anxious and nervous, the best course of action is to keep your pet occupied. Plenty of food and things to play with. It's also important to get your pet's cage covered. This will block out direct sunlight and also make it impossible for your gerbil to see what's happening. If by chance your pet were to see people walking by, or even animals passing by on a sidewalk, then your gerbil could become extremely afraid and anxious. Keeping your gerbil in the dark, essentially both literally and figuratively, can serve to drastically create a more positive situation during vehicle-style travel. When it comes to air travel, the real question isn't can they in respect to the physical security aspect, but rather if such form of travel is even allowed. As we've entered a trend concerning emotional support animals, more and more pets are being allowed on planes. However, it's really a yes or no question. It all depends on the airline. Taking a look at four major airlines, American Airlines will allow a gerbil in the cabin if it is deemed emotional support. American Airlines will also allow a gerbil as cargo. Delta Airlines will not allow a gerbil in cabin, but they will allow this pet as cargo. Southwest Airlines does not allow gerbils either in cabin or cargo. And finally, United Airlines does not allow a gerbil to be present in cabin. United also states that gerbils do not meet the criteria of an emotional support animal. United also is a firm no when it comes to carrying a gerbil as cargo. The general answer to this question is, unfortunately, no. In fact, gerbils aren't even allowed to be kept as pets in some states, California and Hawaii being the prime examples. Additionally, some airlines do not allow pets to travel between certain airports. As an example, American Airlines has restrictions on taking pets to specific locations, such as Las Vegas. While the reasons for the restrictions aren't clear, it's obvious that attempting to take your gerbil outside of the country is all but impossible. And hey, let's be honest, it's probably not worth the hassle, especially if you're met with rejection at some point during your travel and are forced to part with your pet at the risk of potentially having to get rid of it. These are certainly not pleasant thoughts for any owner. It is our advice to forget the idea of traveling abroad with your pet gerbil. There are simply too many rules, restrictions, and potential complications in play. Regardless of your mode of travel, you will need the basics: bedding, food, and water, a travel tank or regular cage if small enough, a cover for said tank or cage, and plenty of room for your gerbil's housing to be stored either in your vehicle or in your luggage. For detailed information regarding each of these necessities, we invite you to read our in-depth article on this very important subject. If you're currently viewing this content via gerbilwelfare.com, please scroll until you locate the What Do You Need to Travel with Gerbils subheading. If you're viewing this material off-site from a different platform, please click the initial link in the description box below that is available to you. Said link will take you to the article in question. As an additional measure, we'd like to offer these helpful travel tips. Never leave your gerbil in direct sunlight for the duration of your travels. Gerbils have a difficult time cooling down, so keep them comfortable and away from direct sunlight for hours at a time. Our next suggestion involves making sure your gerbil's cage is covered. This is not only good for the aforementioned sunlight concern, but also for keeping the action to a minimum. As we noted in our travel section, as it relates to stress and anxiety, keeping a lid on the action can keep a lid on the anxiety. Don't allow your gerbil to see too much. This could induce fear. Our next tip is to detach your gerbil's water bottle from the cage. Leaving it attached can cause unwanted noise, introduce the possibility of the bottle becoming damaged, thus creating a leak. The last thing you want is water everywhere. Give your gerbil a small amount of cucumber for hydration. This is an easy way to get liquid refreshment. Another piece of advice involves bringing extras, additional food, bedding, and water to be more exact. Because travel journeys can often take unexpected turns, over preparing is essential. It's best to have too much than not enough. Traffic can delay your travel time. Canceled and delayed flights can do the same. By packing more, you'll be able to face every obstacle. Pack for the worst case scenario so you know you'll be prepared for almost anything. Our final tip involves extreme weather. Avoid traveling if things are a mess, especially if temperatures are far too hot or far too cold. Gerbils are warm blooded, but they're still very small. While gerbils are good at adapting to their environment, temperature extremes are not healthy. If your travels are going to be a mess for you, you can just imagine how things could be for your pet. If extreme weather is in the forecast, it's best to leave your little buddy at home, if you can. And with that final tip, that will close the book on this subject matter. It is always our pleasure to be of service to you, and we hope this video served you well today. We hope it was educational and provided you with some valuable information and helpful tips. From all of us here at gerbilwelfare.com, we thank you for your time. And until our paths cross again, we hope you have a wonderful day.